goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Do the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying. Sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and hiding. I get those
Newcastle United. Wembley is a place for
you. Ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the high. Throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. The big match preview, it is back again. And look, for all the frustrations on Tuesday night, we are back now with another game. This is the benefit of the quick fire matches that we have been in European football this season. So we're going to get into all of that in due course. But Chris, how are you, fella? Hope you are well.
Yeah, good, mate. All good. I think I've finished moaning to you in the green room, Pete, about my busy, long, hard day. But no, on a personal level, I'm good. And obviously, it's great to have Joe on with us tonight. So yeah, and looking forward. Obviously, a little bit of disappointment against Tottenham midweek. So it would be nice to look forward and think about the game this weekend. But how are you doing, Pete? You okay?
Not too bad yet.
Good man.
As we talked about before we went live, the weeks are getting busier as we build up to Christmas, and they are pretty much non-stop in life, not just Newcastle United, but we are here to talk all about it, and we're going to get into it in just a second. But where we were going to go previously, we'll park that just for a second because we do have a guest on tonight, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome in, of course. We have to have an opposition's view on all things Burnley. And it's a pleasure to welcome in Joe from the Turfcast. So welcome in, Joe. How you doing?
Evening, gents. How are we all? Evening, viewers. How is everyone? Hope we're well.
Good, mate. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. But we obviously it's a big game for both clubs on Saturday. Newcastle United frustrated by the draw. Sort of last minute equaliser from Spurs, Christian Romero, sport the party somewhat. So we're frustrated from that point of view. But obviously from a Burnley point of view, it's kind of 5 without a win, another defeat against Palace. Like, how are you finding things just in general as a Burnley fan this season under Scott Parker? Like, what do you make of the start that you've had to the season so far?
Well, the start itself originally wasn't that bad. We're in now a rut. It's pretty obvious. We're in a horrible run of form now. And at this moment in time, it's getting quite tough. Like you said there, the headline is we've lost 5 in a row. But when you delve a little bit deeper into that, we've also lost 7 out of 9. So it's not a great sort of like run that we're on at the minute. But yeah, the start itself, like, it wasn't that bad. We lost at Spurs, but we expected that. I'm sure you boys all love the fact that we beat Sunderland at home as well. You know, again, not to bring them up too much, and apologies for mentioning their start to the season, but they've had a good start to the season, and we managed to beat them. So we looked at that and we thought, I mean, to be fair, at that point they weren't doing that well. They were on the second game of the season, but we'd beaten a team that came up with us, so we're like, right, that's a good start. That's decent. Then we went on to beat Leeds. We went on to beat Wolves. We drew it on to Forest. And at that point, after the Wolves game, you're thinking, we're not a million miles away. We're actually out of the relegation zone at that point. I think it was Wolves, West Ham, and maybe even Leeds or Forest that were in it. And then after that, yeah, it's just we've flatlined because we've been on 10 points now, obviously, for 5 games. And it's got to the stage now where we're not only dragged in the relegation zone, we're dragged down to second bottom. There's a bit of a gap forming now. Fulham are pulling away. Sunderland are gone. Leeds won last night as well, so that they've got a 4-5 point gap on us as well. I think it's 4. If West Ham are literally playing as we speak now, if I keep looking up there, that's why. If they win today, they can pull away from us as well. So yeah, it's it's a tough run of form at the minute, and I am finding it difficult to find the motivation to be positive and to you boys know what it's like running a channel, running a podcast. You know, when you're in a horrible run of form, because sometimes people realize that you've got to drag yourself over to the computer. You've still got to create all this content and talk about all this crap that's going on. And, yeah, it's tough at the minute, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not sure if there's a noise in the background. I'm not sure if it's coming from one of your boys' laptops or
it might be. Sure. It might be. Hang on, let me.
Like a little pinging noise that keeps going off. But no, but you're right, Joe. You're right. It is difficult, especially when you go through a difficult moment. Continually talking about it. At times it can be considered therapy. I know me and Chris have felt like that.
Yeah.
When we've had a disappointing result or a defeat, and you kind of think to yourself, I don't really want to talk about this tonight. I'm already annoyed and angry enough as it is. And then,
it can be painful.
Yeah, but then you talk about it, and it starts to kind of, sink in a little bit, and you try and move past it. And by the end of it, you think to yourself, you know what, that wasn't bad. It's maybe not as bad as we think, and I'm glad we kind of talked about it. So it can go either way with it. But
yeah, definitely.
You like I say, it's we had a sort of a positive start, and then some of the results there recently have kind of slipped off. But Scott Parker, what have you made of him and his job? Obviously, he was there with you in the Championship. He's brought you up to the Premier League. Has there anything changed in his managerial approach? Has he changed in terms of what he expects from the team? Have you noticed anything differently in terms of how he's trying to manage and handle the Premier League? What have you made of him? Obviously, he's got connections with Newcastle United as a previous midfielder. Also, so what have you made of his start to the Premier League season?
Like I said, we started well, and I felt like Scott was doing a good job for the tools that he had. The fact that we were on 10 points after 9 games it was at the time, out of the relegation zone, and what more could we do at that point? Like literally, if we finish 17th for this season, that is success for Burnley this season. So it was looking like he was doing a good job, but there's just 5 defeats in a row. Don't get me wrong, it's not just Scott's fault. There's issues on the pitch, there's issues at boardroom level as well. Yeah, some people are pointing to the recruitment and things like that. But I feel like at the minute, as one of the comments says there, he sounded like a defeated man after the Palace game, and it's not just he said some comments after the Palace game where he's like, yeah, like our manager's looking down, and he's got that cotton hair, like, yeah, it's just one of them things and all that sort of stuff. And then he came out and said, yeah, I've got a team full of fighters, but maybe that's not enough. And a lot of Burnley fans have reacted quite negatively to that. So, if I look at the entire 18 months or whatever he's been at the turf, then yeah, I think he's done a good job. At the start of last season, I don't know if you're keeping close tabs on the Championship, but we got off to a relatively decent start. We beat Fulham, who came down with us, and then I had a couple of good wins, and then the board just sold the entire team, and then replaced the entire team in the space of a week, the week prior to playing Blackburn Rovers, by the way. It's what are you doing? I'd rather just lose the week, 2 weeks beforehand and make sure we win this match. You guys know how it is. Obviously, you've got Sunderland coming up soon. So there was a lot of panic, but Scott didn't panic. Scott was the level-headed one. And throughout last season as well, there are moments where we dropped out the top 2, maybe even went 4th, 5th and stuff like that. A lot of Burnley fans up in arms. Scott was always the level-headed one. And I feel like he did a very good job last season. 100 points, let's not forget. He did a very good job last season, despite everything, despite company leaving us, up SHRT Creek without a paddle and stuff like that. And I think Scott's come in, he steadied the ship and he got us back to the Premier League. And then he started relatively well. But it's one of them, it does make a few mistakes. He is quite negative. He's cautious, I think is the best way of describing him, rather than negative. He would rather have players at the back rather than commit men forward in case we get countered. So there's a few things that in the Prem, I think is starting to maybe seem a little bit out of his depth, if I'm honest with you. I'm not Parker out yet, but on the Burnley socials, the pressure's getting quite loud now. And I feel like if we go to St James's Park and lose to you guys, which is probably what most Burnley fans would have expected, even without the run of form. But then we've got Fulham and Bournemouth after that. I think you lose your next 3. that's what 8 defeats in a row. You know, I would be surprised if he's still there at that point. But in the grand scheme of things, I do think he's done a good job. I just think we're in a stage now where maybe, just maybe, we're finding out that he's probably a little bit out of his depth in the Premier League.
Interesting, Chris, what Joe said there about Burnley's start to the season, and in particular Scott Parker. Like, in any of the games you might have caught Burnley and watched them, what have you made of them from an outsider's perspective? And what are your thoughts in particular with the fact that, you know, Scott Parker could potentially be out of a job if he doesn't do well in the next 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the second part of the question first, I mean, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? And a manager's career or a manager's tenure is always dependent on results, isn't it? And, you know, the Premier League is hard. I mean, we saw a bit how well Burnley performed last year, absolutely fantastic in the Championship. But as Benny Boy says there, you know, it shows the quality between the Championship and the Premier League. And I do think it is growing year on year. But looking at the league, I had a little look when Joe was talking there, and Burnley currently on 10 points. And Joe, you'll know this better than most. Like, it's a funny season this season, isn't it? And you know, you look at how many points you are away from getting out of it. I can see where Joe's coming from in terms of the next 3, which sound, you know, critical. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for Burnley on the weekend. I firmly believe that, St James's. But then, obviously, did you say it was Bournemouth and Fulham, Joe?
Yeah, Fulham, then Bournemouth. But no disrespect. Yeah. No disrespect to either of them. Like, Bournemouth have been great recently, but again, these are the sort of, like, you play Chelsea, you play Arsenal, you play United, you play Tottenham, and I don't know, you guys won't have the same mentality, but as a Burnley fan, I'm like, yeah, just write them off, forget about them. Then you come into games against Fulham and Bournemouth, even though they have quality, thinking these are the games where we need to be picking up points. So lose against you, lose against them too, and I'd be very, very, very surprised if he's in a job.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's a difficult proposition, I suppose, as well. For me, and maybe this can be the next question for you, Joe. For me, it's about who would come in to replace Scott Parker. That would probably be the argument, or the one where, you know, like, I wouldn't say there's anyone outstanding at the moment who would be an obvious candidate. I could be wrong there. But yeah, in terms of Burnley overall, I mean, obviously, I think back to the Burnley I saw in the Premier League, not last season, the season before under Kompany, and it felt a bit like rinse and repeat, you know, in terms of you were just going for it, which was admirable in a way. But then at the same time, it was like, maybe you do need to be a bit more defensive. Maybe you do need to change your tactics and be a bit tighter at the back, which obviously Scott Parker's brought. It's just whether or not he can kind of, you know, still pick up the results and not be too negative. So it is frustrating. And just to add in as well, Joe, to what you were saying earlier, believe it or not, mate, it wasn't that long ago that we were doing exactly what you were doing in terms of looking at certain games and going, not winning that, not, you know, with the likes of Bruce, honestly, mate, it really, I mean, obviously we're in a decent place at the moment, but it's not been like that for very long, I must admit. But out of interest, Joe, and sorry if I'm segueing here, Pete, if Scott Parker was to go, what kind of manager would you be looking for, or is there a particular name you've got in your mind?
Not me particularly yet, because I'm not Parker out. I still think he deserves more of a chance, but like I said, we're at that stage of the season now where it's, you know, the 4th of December. It's critical. We have to pick up points now. If we don't pick up points in the next 3 games, we could potentially be bottom. Right? Wolves aren't going to win the next 3, but, you know, we could potentially be bottom. Or worse than that, what is more realistic is we could be 7 points away from Leeds, 9 points away from West Ham, 12 points away from Fulham, and then you're dead and buried already. So I don't know. It's one of them. I haven't looked at any potential replacements just yet because I'm not Parker out yet. I saw a shout for Hassan Hootel on Twitter yesterday, and I thought, but again, that just goes back to what you were saying, mate. Like, there's not many outstanding candidates out there. Yeah. I liked what we did under Vincent Kompany. I liked the fact that we went for an ex, and again, it's similar to Parker, to be fair, an ex big name player who's played at international level, who's already sort of like a household name across England, especially, and Europe in Vincent Kompany's case, to then come in and prove himself as a manager. Like, we were the stepping stone for Vincent Kompany to get that Bayern Munich job. The way he did it, I don't agree with it in the end. I feel like He used us and as a sort of like a vessel to prove he can play football the right way at our expense. Like, we were awful last time we were in the Premier League, worse than what we are now. And we all, Ange, I couldn't think of anything worse. But we week in, week out, we're playing suicide football. It was just constant, like, this isn't working, Vincent, change it up. But he was like, no, I know my philosophy is right. I will do it the right way. In the end, I'm sat here in a bungalow in Paddington, which is a town next to Burnley. He's the manager of Bayern Munich, so maybe he's onto something and I'm not. Maybe you should just get rid of all your morals and do the way that you think. But Scott Parker wouldn't do that. I just think with Scott Parker, it's just a case of he's probably out of his depth. So yeah, apologies, I don't have a name for you because I've not really looked at that yet because I am not of that thinking yet. A few Burnley fans have sort of like been saying things like Graham Alexander, who's obviously a former Burnley player, but he's currently at Bradford. Like, without any disrespect, this is the Premier League. Like, a League One, League Two manager isn't going to come in and keep you up in the Premier League. Michael Duff as well. I don't know where he's at these days, but he's a former Burnley player. But so I've seen some shouts with Joey Barton, like, get a grip. Like, he's too busy. He's too busy being racist on a podcast. Like, I don't want him. I used to love him as a player, but I don't want him anywhere near my club again. So yeah, there's nobody out there. Michael Carrick's not a bad shout, to be fair, there by Sophie. Stephen Gerrard, that fits sort of like the ilk of these sort of like former players' household names. I would actually like Carrick. Big Sam, can't have Big Sam because he was formerly the Blackburn manager, unfortunately.
Yes.
So anyone associated with that football club, keep them away. But yeah, sorry, I don't actually have a name for you because I've not been looking at that sort of thing because I'm still Scott in for now.
I like the fact that you are Scott in as well because like we have our battles internally as a fan base as well. Like it's really strange and I think our chat have done it, potentially done it for you if that was ever the case. Because I think there's some good choices in there. Particularly Michael Carrick, I think it could be a good fit for him and also a test for him because he'd be managing in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's not done it in the Premier, has he? That will be my concern with Carrick, but he does fit the bill of sort of former international, well-known. Frank Lampard is, as well as he's doing at Coventry, like he's not going to leave a team at top of the Championship, is it? For a team that's probably going to go down, like you'd be stupid to do that. So it's interesting actually because when we were looking at Scott Parker, we did interview Frank Lampard, and apparently he interviewed very, very well. But there was a lot of pressure from the fan base, all saying you can't employ Frank. He's awful. And I always thought it was a bit harsh that Frank was sort of like pigeonholed into this sort of like awful manager. I felt like he probably should have done better with Derby, but Everton's a basket case of a football club. So I feel like he should really be getting too much stick for that. I feel like he did relatively well to keep him up in the first season. But I'm actually glad to see him do well because I liked him as a player. I loved him and Gerrard. I'm not a massive fan of Chelsea or Liverpool, but individually, I love them too. They were great players. So I'm glad to see him doing well.
I'm glad to see him do well at Coventry as well because I've always had I'm from the Midlands anyway in terms of like where I'm
going to say I didn't know that. I was just about to say you've probably not dealt with Coventry fans then because they are the worst fan base in the country. They're so hard work. Just wait, when they go up next season and they're playing you might change your mind. They are the most hard work fans in the country.
Yeah, I'll be honest. My experience with them has been very different. Like I've always got on all right with like Cov fans, but I think it's just the club. Obviously, you know, growing up in the 90s, watching football, like they were in the Premier League and stuff, and they've been away for quite a long time. And it was a bit like when Forest came back up as well. It was nice to have like a different team back. So I was gutted that they missed out the other year. So I'd love Frank for that reason to bring them back. They've had their turmoils as well. I feel like I've got like like an understanding with a club that's had real difficulties. They've had issues with their stadium and their club nearly like going bust and all the rest of it. And it's kind of like we've had our issues with Mike Ashley and all the rest of that's gone for like nearly 13, 14 years. And it's kind of those clubs that have had difficulties, I kind of feel like I've got a little bit of a connection with. So I've always wanted Coventry to do well. But no, go on.
I was going to say, mate, wasn't Mike Ashley? Mike Ashley was involved with their Vico Arena as well, wasn't he? Didn't he buy it or something, and then was trying to do something with it? Was it let them play rugby there or something, and take the football off them or something?
Yeah, he was trying to put like events on as well. Like he was trying to make it like an event, like a stadium, rather than for football, and it was almost like I can't remember the details on it, but yeah, he was basically doing what he did to Newcastle United, trying to extort as much money out of any asset that he's got as possible without putting as minimal in as possible. So it was just a horrible moment for Coventry. And I remember they had a period where they were having to play their games at Northampton Town. And they just had a horrible, difficult period. So I'm glad they're doing well now. I'm glad they got a stadium back. And I was going to mention it. David Cook's mentioned it as well when you talked about managers stupid enough to leave the team at the top of the league. Rob Edwards did that with Wolves, didn't he?
He did it, but he used to play for Wolves, and I think he's from that sort of area, so it's probably a little bit different there. You obviously a little bit of context there, but obviously Frank has no connections with Burnley Football Club, and to be fair, Frank will probably be a little bit bitter about the fact that he didn't get the job when Parker got it because he wanted it. So so obviously there's a bit of context for that. But yeah, obviously, like, you never know how someone thinks, but I'd be very, very surprised. I think, like I said, Carrick would probably be a good shout, or maybe Gerrard. Knowing Burnley, it'd be somebody out of work.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a couple of players I want to talk about before we sort of touch on Newcastle United for a little bit. One player that we know very, very well. Wondering how he's getting on with you boys. Martin Dubravka, signed for you boys in the summer. My personal opinion, I was kind of ready for him to go. People on this channel know I was very frustrated with him when he was playing in golf. And I'm putting it mildly, by the way. I was frustrated with him playing in golf for Newcastle United. But how is he getting on at Burnley for you, and how are the fans taking to him since he signed for you?
Yeah, he's done really well. Like, genuinely, he's come in, and apart from West Ham away, he's been very, very good. West Ham away, he made 2 mistakes and cost us 2 goals, and we lost 3-2. But other than that, yeah, he's done very, very well. Like, obviously, we had James Trafford last season and the season before. Obviously, you boys wanted him. He was very, very good in the Championship last season, but the season before in the Premier League, I think he was a little bit out of his depth. What I will say is I feel like Dubravka right now is a better goalkeeper than Trafford right now. I feel like Trafford will obviously grow, will obviously be better, and will go on to probably be the England number 1 for some time. He's just having a little bit of a tough time of it at England at the minute because he's not getting in at City, obviously with the signing of Donnarumma. So I feel like we've improved the goalkeeper. So yeah, Burnley fans love him. Like, Burnley fans really, really like him. I feel like we can hang our hat on him for the majority of the games. He makes good saves. He comes out and collects crosses. And yeah, to be fair, obviously you're wagging your finger there. I do remember seeing a lot of Newcastle fans when we signed Dubravka.
It wasn't at you. It was that Genie.
I saw the comment. That's what I mean. Like, I saw the comment. Like, I saw you wagging your finger there. Like, a lot of Newcastle fans came onto the Burnley hashtag and were saying, "Oh, I'd rather have kept Dubravka than Pope." Like, obviously, Pope, it's the opposite way around. We kind of like swap keepers, haven't we? I love Pope for what he did for Burnley. A fantastic goalkeeper at Burnley. Like, genuinely, he would come out and catch anything. I remember when COVID hit, I was worried for him because he catches everything. So if he's going to catch COVID, but it's weird. I watch him. I watch him for you guys now, and he's just not as good at the minute. Like, I do think he's probably is better than Dubravka what is right now. But for some reason, Nick Pope recently has not been great. Was it Marseille where he made that stupid mistake of rush of blood to the head? And I feel like that happens like 3-4 times a season now with Newcastle. But this rush of blood to the head, it just never happened with Burnley. Like, I know you're probably frustrated with his distribution. His distribution was always poor. He would always kick it off and it'd just skew with to the left. It's just a Nick Pope thing. We just got used to it. But yeah, this rush of blood to the head thing. I was on another Newcastle podcast earlier today, actually, and I remember him saying the same thing. And I do remember him mentioning that. And I feel like, and obviously the comment there from Tom Dixon, he says he can't even catch the ball. Genuinely, Burnley, he will catch everything. So if he's not catching anything for Newcastle and he's having these rush of blood to the head, I feel like maybe he's just getting on a bit now. He's Popey, unfortunately. He must be like, what, 30? 31, 32. I say this as a 37-year-old man. Don't get me wrong, he's not old. But he's getting on for a footballer, you know what I mean? So I feel sorry for Nick, but I think he's clearly on the way down.
Chris, your thoughts on that? Obviously, Dubravka doing well at Burnley. This conversation between Dubravka and Pope, like, I don't agree with it. And I don't agree with Tom Dixon's comment either. For me, he's a commander of the area. He can catch a ball. If we'd have had him in goal in that last 5 minutes, if we'd have had him in that goal in the last 5 minutes against Spurs, I don't think we lose that game or draw it. It feels like a loss to me, but I don't think we draw that game because he does command his area and he can catch a ball. But what do you make of that? Obviously, Dubravka at Burnley, you might have watched him a couple of times. He had one fantastic game where he made an outstanding save, a couple of them. But your thoughts in general?
Yeah. So I think Nick Pope can catch a ball, he can throw a ball, but he definitely can't kick a ball. And that's the big issue. He really cannot kick a ball. But in general, do you know what, Pete? I was ready for Martin Dubravka to go. I think he was a good servant for us, and I think, especially under Rafa, who obviously signed him, Martin Dubravka was really, really good. I think unfortunately, time just caught up with him a little bit. And this is no disrespect to Joe or to Burnley. I think I said at the time, it's a very good signing for Burnley. Very, very good signing for Burnley because he's vastly experienced. He's still an international, still a Slovakian international, with a lot of experience. And how much did you pay for him, Joe? Was it 4 million?
I don't know. It was a little, very little amount. I think it was even less than that.
It might have been.
Yeah. Because we're not going to get much out of him, to be fair. So you would expect it to be quite a little amount. He's going to be 2 seasons at most. So to be honest with you, I did say it at the time. There was a comment there from I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. I feel like it was around 1 million. I feel like it was absolute pittance.
Yeah. And in that case, Joe, it's a really, really good sign and Premier League experienced, obviously. So I agree with Pete in the sense that it was time for him to go, and I think we needed to upgrade. The frustration from my point of view, and I think Pete shares this opinion as well, is the fact that I still believe that we should have gone out and got that real big hitting number one. I mean, at one point, Joe, and you won't know this, during the summer transfer window, we were being linked with all kinds of players, and one of them was Juan Garcia, the goalkeeper who ended up at Barcelona, Mike Magnon. He was or Magic Mike, as we all call him. We were thinking, we're going to get him. And no disrespect to Adam Ramsdale, but we ended up with Adam Ramsdale, and we knew that Adam Ramsdale would very much be coming in to compete with Pope. Some people would argue he's slightly worse, some people would argue he's slightly better, but there's not that much between them either way, in my opinion. So I think that was the frustration. But obviously, with Martin Dubravka moving on, it then meant that we had an extra space, to bring somebody in. But no, I wish Dubravka all the best, and like I say, I think he is a good signer for Burnley. And if you're talking £1 million, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I think it
brings a lot of experience as well, and that's what Trafford lacked. The amount of times that Trafford will get himself into trouble because he just didn't think was too much to notice. Like last time in the Premier League, he actually ended up blocking me on Instagram. I tell this story all the time. James Trafford actually has Turfcast blocked on Instagram. And I never did anything like on his Instagram. I never slagged him off on socials, but I used to slag him off on the podcast and saying he isn't good enough for the Premier League. He obviously used to watch and took exception to it and blocked me on Instagram. But again, that's like a perfect sort of like side of how he's immature and how he's just, things get to him. It was saving the match. Like, if he didn't collect a cross for 10 minutes, someone would put a cross in that were nowhere near the keeper. He'd come rushing out for it and get nowhere near it. It's like, just chill out. Whereas Dubravka, he brings a lot of experience and a lot of calmness. And Burnley fans, the majority of Burnley fans agree with me when I say, at the minute, Dubravka is the better goalkeeper out of the two, but Trafford will go on and have a better career, I think.
Well, that's interesting, because obviously, I was going to ask you just your opinions on James Trafford. So it's interesting that you weren't really a fan, even though he was having a good season last year.
Not in the Premier League. Last year I loved him. Not in the Premier League. Again, it highlights the gap. It was a comment at the start of the stream. It highlights the gap between the two leagues. He was genuinely the best keeper in the Championship last season. It wasn't even close. Like some people will say Michael Cooper at Sheffield United, but he's nowhere near the levels of James Trafford. Trafford's been in the England setup for a reason. I just feel like in the Premier League, he needs to prove it to me yet. He still needs to prove it to me. And he played a couple of games for City at the start of the season. What did Pep Guardiola do when he'd seen Trafford in the net after a few games? He went and signed another goalkeeper. All right, the best goalkeeper in the world became available. But still, if you back your goalkeeper, even if the goalkeeper is the best goalkeeper in the world, I still don't think you probably go and sign him if you back your goalkeeper. But I seem to remember him making a mistake. I can't remember what game it was in, but Trafford made a mistake quite early on. And now he's just rotting on the bench. And I feel sorry for him slightly a little bit, but at the same time, the grass isn't always greener, is it? And it'd have probably been better off staying at Burnley for another season, or probably going to Newcastle, to be fair.
Was it Tottenham he had the bad game against? I want to say Tottenham.
And then we made a mistake at the Etihad, and I can't remember. I don't know. It might have been Tottenham.
It were a pass out from the back, weren't it, if I remember rightly? And he did that a couple of times at Burnley. And all Burnley fans are like, yeah, we've seen all that before.
It's one of those that he needed a run of games, I think, at City, regardless of the result. I think he just needed a run of games. But obviously, with Man City, when you've got a juggernaut club like that are trying to rebuild themselves, they're not going to mess around. If they've got an opportunity to buy, as you said, Joe, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, you're going to take it. It's as simple as that. But I think I genuinely think, I've said it before on our channel, whether we go for Trafford or not is besides the point. I think James Trafford, if he's going to be the goalkeeper that everyone keeps talking about him going to be, he's going to inherit that role of number one at England as the next goalkeeper. He needs to have stability. He needs to, wherever he goes next, it needs to be a permanent move, and he needs to be knowing that he's going to be number one and play week in, week out, and he needs to stay there 3, 4, 5 years and really just hone his craft, because this chopping and changing and moving around is not good for him at all. It's not good for his development. It's not good for us as England fans, because we want the best goalkeepers and the best performers when it comes to the competitions. Like, he just needs that stability, and whether it's with Newcastle, whether it's somewhere else, who knows? But it's going to be an interesting one, because we have been linked with him. We have been linked with bringing him back, and it's good to get your perspective, Joe, because never really asked a Burnley fan with regards to how he was there, because we've just assumed he was great because he was being lauded on Sky week in, week out.
He was brilliant in the Championship, probably a little bit out of his depth in the Premier League. But I think when he was playing in the Premier League, I've already seen now off the top of my head, I can't remember, 21. So when he was playing in the Premier League, he was 19. And that's young for a footballer. Never mind that. It's even younger for a goalkeeper. Like, goalkeepers obviously mature, I feel, a little bit later. And they tend to last a little bit longer, like a good goalkeeper. It's like Brad Friedel, I can't believe we're going to say this, but we're still, playing well for, he did well at Blackburn, then he did well at places like Fulham and stuff like that, if I remember rightly. I can't remember where else he went. Fulham might be a wrong shout, but that's a goalkeeper that went on for so long. Like, I can't remember some other names, but Buffon as well. He was playing well into his 40s. The greatest goalkeeper of all time, some might argue. So yeah, I feel like, yes, he was out of his depth in the Premier League, and I stand by that. But he was 19 years old, So when he's 25, if you decide him when he's 21, you'd still have had him if he's been there for 4 or 5 years, and he's not even in his prime at 25. He's a goalkeeper, so I feel like Trafford would have been an investment for a club, and it's just a shame that City just did typical City and was like, no, we have a clause, we're having him back, and then just let him rot on the bench, because it's not good for his development. And obviously it's kind of sort of like you've been left with sort of like keepers that probably won't be as good this time in 2-3 years than what Trafford would have been. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I loved him and I thought he was fantastic in the Championship last season, but in the Premier League he was a little bit out of his depth. But I will always caveat that by saying he was 19, 20, so he was just a little bit lightweight more than anything. Definitely,
and we'll see where I'm sure we'll find out in January where he goes on there. Genie has to put on there about Robin Rufus at Sunderland. He is a hell of a goalkeeper. We don't like Sunderland, of course, they're our rivals, but they got him an absolute snip because he is a proper goalkeeper.
Not to blow smoke up the Mackems arse, obviously being on a Newcastle podcast, but I don't know what their recruitment team has done this summer, but they've done very, very well. Like, they've done that. They were like 25 points worse than us last season in the Championship, and now they're throwing at Liverpool, winning at Stamford Bridge. There's something that their recruitment team have done this season that some other recruitment teams need to tap into, because they've done very well, to be fair.
They've done
was unbelievable signing. Getting Granit Xhaka.
Yeah. I mean, with Granit Xhaka, everyone knows his quality, but they've signed a lot of unknowns. Cheap, as that comment on screen says there, and like, who's he? I've never heard of him. Next thing you know, he's class. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Like, they've done well to convince Granit Xhaka to go to Sunderland. Like, I'll be honest with you, I lived in Sunderland for a year. I did my masters at Sunderland University. it's just a big Burnley, which is basically means it's a shithole, just bigger. So they've done well to convince him to go there. I mean, he won't live in Sunderland. I know that. He'll probably live in Durham or even Newcastle. But yeah, they've done well. Hats off to him. Like, I fully respect it. Like, we've come up twice over the last few years, spent a lot of money in both summers, and both summers gone down. Well, we're not gone down yet this summer, but it's looking like we will. So, hats off to him. I don't necessarily, obviously, I don't hate them like you guys do, just like you don't hate Blackburn like I do. But it's just one of them. You've just, when they do well, you've just got to respect it.
Joe, you can come again with that comment.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I liked it. I like a nice shithole. You know what I mean? Like, I'm from one. Like, I live in Burnley. There's something about it. You know what I mean? There's something endearing about a place like that. Like, I love it, mate. You walk around town. There's people sleeping rough. There's like, but people will talk to you. Like, it's different. You walk around London, or you walk around a gentrified area, and people just aren't the same. Like, I actually like the city of Sunderland. I like it, but I will admit it is a shithole, but I like it because it is one of them. Just same as Burnley and Padiham.
So, Joe, it's the north, mate. It's the north. It's simple as that.
It's like Liverpool. Like that's just a big haul as well. You know what I mean? Like Manchester. I work in Manchester. It's got some lovely areas, to be fair, as Manchester, but it's got some awful ones as well. So yeah, I agree. It's the north. It's just people are just nicer. Like I used to sometimes work up at Newcastle Racecourse every now and then, and people are like, "You're right, pet." Like, yeah, you're right. And you just don't get that when you work at racecourses down in or wherever down in London. So yeah, I agree. It's the north, mate.
Absolutely. Just on Sunderland before we move on really quickly. I feel like they've signed 6 or 7 like European level players. Like, I'm not talking Champions League. I'm talking like Europa League, Europa Conference level players that can play at that level, and they've got 6 or 7 of them, which for a newly promoted side is like above and beyond what you'd expect. And they've been able to build a squad off the back of that. And that's why they're playing really well. I was really impressed with them. As hard as it is to say, I was really impressed with them.
You're a better man than me, mate. There's no way you catch me saying that stuff about Blackburn Rovers. If they were doing well, I'd just be like, absolutely not. Like, my partner's a Blackburn fan as well. So I get it from all angles, mate. But I'd just be like, nope, you look at. That's literally all I say, like, look at.
It pains me. And next week in the build-up to the derby, you will not catch me saying anything of this sort. That is for sure. But I just want to get your word on Newcastle. What have you made in Newcastle this season? Obviously, this frustrating result on Tuesday. What are you expecting coming to St James's Park on Saturday, John?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. There's no bones about it. Like, I do not remember a positive result up at Newcastle for a long time, and I might be wrong. You guys might have a better memory than me or have stats to hand, but I remember drawing 3-3 up there at some point. But other than that, I feel like I don't remember ever winning up at St James's Park. There might be one that I'm forgetting about, but it's always been a tough place to go. And even though now you're having a season that probably, outside looking in, feels a little bit stop-start. Like, you might kick on and you might eventually get back into the top 7, 8, 9 or whatever it is for Europe these days. I feel like it just eventually the whole Premier League is just going to qualify for Europe just because you're in the Premier League. But I feel like at the minute you are a bit stop-start. You've had a bit of a tough period. I feel like at the minute I know you boys are frustrated, and all Newcastle fans are probably frustrated with the Tottenham game, the way you threw it away in the last minute. But obviously you've gone away to the Hill Dickinson and won there. You've beaten City at home as well recently. You've got a good home form, and that home form I think eventually will see you over the line, and you will. It might not be Champions League again. It might be Europa League. It might be something, maybe even the Conference League. Who knows? But if you enter the Conference League, you're probably going to win it if you take it seriously. So every cloud and all that. So yeah, I'm expecting a tough game. Like, I don't particularly like going to St James's Park. Number one, I'm absolutely out of breath by the time I get up to the top of the stadium for number one. I know it's a running joke, but trust me, like, sort it out. And we just seem to lose every time. Like, honestly, genuinely, I think the last time I went, I can't remember what score it was, but I just found myself looking out to my left and just looking at the views of the city. I was just like, oh, you can see all that. I'm like, well, we're getting beat. Like, what's the point? So yeah, it's tough. St James's Park's a tough place to go. And if you get ahead and if you get sort of like a good run of form and the crowd gets behind you, it's tough, man, and it's a difficult place to be. And we need to try and frustrate you, because then again, it can work in our favour. Then, like, the passionate crowd can then not turn as such, but sort of get frustrated, moans, groans. They all are heard on the pitch. The players then make more mistakes. So we've just got to hope you have a bit of an off day, and we defend very, very well. But from what I've seen so far this season at Burnley, we're not defending very, very well, despite how good we were in the Championship last season. But yeah, just to disregard what Tony Tyne-Bridge said, an early goal would not be nice. That would be the worst thing that could possibly happen to us. So the only way that we get a result out of this is we frustrate the life out. You go into half-time, the fans are frustrated. You know, it gets to 60 minutes, it's still 0-0. Everyone's mourning. And then we nick a 1-0. Do I think that will happen? Absolutely not. But yeah, it's going to be tough, to answer your question, mate.
It's interesting. You talked about early goals, and Tony Tyne-Bridge mentioned it. We have a knack, Chris, of scoring early goals. We have done recently.
You score early against us, it's a procession. You can just turn it into a training match at that point. Like, we don't create enough to win football matches. We don't create enough to do anything. So if you score against us, the chances of you losing that match are slim to none. At worst, you'll draw it 1-1.
Well, we shall wait and see. Now, just before, are you okay for time, Joe?
Yeah, mate, I'm fine. Like I said to you on earlier, private issues are all sorted. I'm just chilling now.
Okay. Well, we'll throw, if you don't mind, we'll throw a few questions at you, because I think there's a few questions in the chat. And
yeah,
then,
go for it.
And we'll get you on the tactics board to set out what you think the first 11 will be on Saturday. Sound all right?
Yeah, go for it. I've just got Man United on here. I'm having time of my life, mate.
So Joe, Genius Divine Aldum asks you, thoughts on Florentino Luis so far? Huge coup for Burnley, I think. That's a player who's got UEFA Champions League experience and has been linked with the league team the last few years.
Very impressed. I feel like Burnley's strongest area is the midfield. I feel like he's a big part of that. Josh Cullen as well. I was surprised when we signed him. In the end, I was wrong, because I remember when we signed him and Sunderland signed Xhaka, I was like, this is the best signing that a promoted side has made this summer. All right, Xhaka's gone on to do very well, I'll admit that. I was probably wrong. But at the time, that just shows how much of a coup it was, as the comment says. So, yeah, very impressed. I was surprised he came to Burnley, as probably a lot of people were. Maybe I don't know what it is, though, that there's something about this type of player that doesn't resonate with Burnley fans. I don't know what it is. Like, most Burnley fans agree with me. He's the first name on the team sheet, or one of it. He's a very, very good player. But there's just been some comments recently about Burnley fans being like, I think we should drop him. Like, are you mad? Like, why would we drop him? He's been so good. The problem is, like, he's that type of player that breaks it. He does the work that goes unnoticed. He does the hard work. He does a lot of running. He does a lot of tackles. He gets the ball to the more creative players. Then they make things happen, or in Burnley's case, overhit the pass. But there's a lot of stuff that people don't see. We're the same with Jack Cork when he was at Burnley as well. So, yeah, a very good footballer who I was very surprised signed for Burnley, and I've been very, very impressed with him. And I think he is a big part of why our midfield is so good this season.
Yeah,
I'll have to keep a lookout for him, mate. I haven't seen much of Luis, so I'll have to keep a.
It was actually quite poor against Palace, if I'm being honest with you. So, having said that, Adam Wharton came to the turf, and obviously everyone's waxing lyrical about Wharton. And I like him as much as I can like an ex-Blackburn player, but he was absolutely awful last night. Yeah, he was absolutely awful last night. And I think a big part of that is because Florentino just bossed that midfield. But even despite that, like even despite me saying he was poor, he still stopped Adam Wharton having a good game. Like, he still stops these other midfielders getting on the ball more. He's just in the faces. He just gave it away a lot more last night, you know what I mean? And just wasn't as good on the ball, but he still did all the hard work really, really, really well.
Chris, we were linked with Florentino Luis.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, when he was at Benfica. We were linked to him. We talked about him previously. We're going back a few years now, but he's a good player. And I'll be honest, Joe, I was shocked. I was shocked that you signed him, because he's still got a hell of a lot to offer, and he is a really, really good, talented player. So fair play.
to keep a lookout for him on the weekend. Have to keep a lookout for him. Joe, Genie Esther asked you another question, and apologies if I pronounced this incorrectly, but he says, Esteve is quality, in my opinion. How do you feel about the other centre-backs?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's Maxime Esteve, French. But in Burnley, we can't pronounce anything other than John Smith. So we just call him Steve. So I will refer to him as Steve from now on. But yeah, Steve's class. In my opinion, he's one of, if not the best defenders the Championship has seen for 20, 30 years. He was so good in the Championship last season. Like, we were, and this isn't even an opinion, it's a fact, the best defence the Championship has ever seen. Like, the amount of goals we conceded, nobody's ever done that before. And Steve was a massive part of that, as was Trafford, as was CJ Egan-Riley as well at centre-back, and as was the full-backs as well. Don't get me wrong, it's a unit. But Steve was the leader. Steve was a brilliant centre-back. However, I feel like there's been some moments in the Premier League this season where he's not been as good. He gets turned too easily. He's missing a couple of headers. And again, it just shows the gap. It just shows the gap. How you can be one of the best defenders in the Championship, or the best player in the Championship last season, to then be getting, turned by, random Palace players. It just shows you that the gap. In terms of the other centre-backs, we've struggled to find somebody as good as Steve, obviously. At the minute, we have Axel Tuanzebe, who came in from Ipswich. Well, he was at Ipswich last season, if I remember rightly. And he's done all right. He's done okay, but there's been some stupid moments from him. Like, I don't know if you saw the penalty against Brentford. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think it was a penalty. I do think he won the ball. It's one of them decisions that 10 years ago he wins the ball, but in 2025, it's like, you're not allowed to tackle, are you? So it probably was in 2025, but I still stand by the fact it shouldn't be. But again, he's diving in there, and he didn't make silly mistakes. And then you've got Hjalmar Ekdal, who's Swedish, probably a better ball winner than Tuanzebe, but he's just not got enough pace. And then after that, you are struggling for other centre-backs, because you've got Joe Worrell, who is probably a similar age to me. Again, he's a little bit too slow. And Scott Parker, for some reason, has consistently played Josh Loren at centre-back if we play a five at the back, which he has ditched recently. And he's a midfielder. He's at best a defensive midfielder, not a centre-back. So, to answer your question, Steve's class, but the other centre-backs have been a little bit hit and miss this season. Tuanzebe was dropped entirely for the game against Palace, but I think off the top of my head there was something to do with an injury. I saw an article on the Burnley Express, but I didn't open it. So I think it was something to do with an injury. But yeah, Steve's class, and we love Steve. But up against Baltimore at the weekend, I think he might struggle.
Okay. I love that you call him Steve.
Yeah, it's same way Leslie Ugachukwu. Like, no one from Burnley is going to say Ugachukwu, so we just call him Big Les. Like, we're not saying Ugachukwu. I'm sorry, we're not doing it. So it's Big Les. Like, even Loom Chowner, we've just nicknamed him Tuna. That's how it is. We don't
So you got Big Les, Steve, and Tuna.
Basically, yeah. Like I said, people always slag me off on the podcast and call me like the butcher because I can't pronounce anything right. But it's not just me; it's people from this town. Like, maybe we're all idiots. I don't know, but it must just be the accent. It must just be the accent. Like, I'm not saying Ugachukwu. Like, I think I'm butchering it. And we've got somebody called Quincidilly Hartman. We just call him Q because I'm not saying Quincidilly. Like, and I'm probably butchering that again. So yeah, we have a lot of pet names in Burnley, and we've always done that. It's quite fun, really.
I like that. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think these two are linked, or I hope these two are linked. And if they're not, Joe, please do correct me. But David Tofield says, "What do you think of your owners?" And then following on from that, Geordie Team for Life says, "What do you think of Alan Pace owning Espanyol? He seems a great owner, to be fair."
It's a difficult one with Alan and ALK because he owns a company called ALK, and then he owns Burnley through the company. I like him. I do like him. I think he's got good intentions. I'm not sure about the timing of owning Espanyol. And it's one of them things, innit? When it happened, Burnley fans were like, yeah, we have like a friend. All Burnley fans and Espanyol fans are all talking on Twitter and following each other. And Burnley fans are going to Espanyol games or in Burnley ever. Like, hey, it's fun. But now we're a bit shit. everyone's like, "Oh, that were a bad move, weren't it?" It's like, hold on, like you loved it 6 months ago, but I questioned it at the time. If I'm honest with you, I didn't get involved in all that. I just feel like you haven't done the job at Burnley yet. Like you came into Burnley when we were an established Premier League side. We got relegated. I don't blame ALK for the relegation. They came in around, I can't remember, like early on in that season. Then we got relegated that season. They've done well to make sure we bounce back. And then the thing is, they just can't. I'm just laughing at the comment signing Tyree. That was funny when Espanyol signed Tyree Stolen from Blackburn, by the way. That was hilarious. But I just feel like now, like, we've been a bit poor. Like JJ Watt, who is a co-owner, I don't know how much money he's invested into the club, and he won't openly say how much because of, I don't know, it's secrecy. But he's like the face of the owners, if you will, like. And he's always now on Twitter. He's talking about Espanyol, he's talking about NFL. Like, he's not mentioned Burnley for a while. It just feels like now we're a little bit crap, and Espanyol have got like this big, shiny new 40,000-seater stadium. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Burnley. Like, I fully admit it's a bit of a shithole, like I've said several times. But where would you rather be? Would you rather be on a beach in Barcelona than going to the Espanyol games in a brand new 40,000-seater stadium? Would you rather be in the pissing rain on Padian Beach? It has a beach, by the way. It's a river, but it's a beach. Or would you rather be going to Turf Moor in the pissing rain? Like, you're gonna be in Barcelona going to the Espanyol stadium, aren't you? So it's one of them, like. Obviously, they've just gone to Espanyol. I think it was earlier this season, like I said, or maybe in the summer. So maybe their main focus at the minute is there. But yeah, I mean, I like Alan. I think he's got the right intentions. I just think that maybe sometimes he, put it this way, he sacked Sean Dyche, who was our greatest, not ever, one of the greatest ever, the greatest manager in my lifetime, definitely. Love Sean. And he didn't really flinch when he sacked him, but yet he refused to sack Vincent Kompany as we walked into relegation. And then genuinely, Burnley had this documentary on, I think it was on Sky, and like there was a moment where there was some news coming out about Vincent going to Bayern, and Alan's messaging him saying like, "Oh, are we still on for tea tonight?" Because Vincent and his wife and Alan and his wife were all going to meet for tea that night in Manchester and have a meal together. And then Vincent didn't answer him, and then Alan's like, "Oh, no worries if you're busy or something." And it's like, he's basically cheated on us. Like, he's going to Bayern, like, and then there were tears in his eyes. That he gets too invested in these people, but he didn't with Sean Dyche. I feel like it's because he's too invested into these because he hired him. I think we're at a minute now where there should probably be more pressure on Scott Parker, but I don't feel like Alan will pot him. I just don't. I feel like he's invested into Parker. So again, he'll be a similar thing. They'll be going out for meals with Parker's wife and Alan's wife and stuff like that. And it's a big moment as well, is like Alan. He goes to a church in Chorley. Really nice church, by the way. It's beautiful. It's covered in white and it's got this big spire. I don't know why I'm talking to you about how nice his church looks, but I just feel like sometimes it just gets too invested in these people, and it doesn't make the ruthless business decisions. I know you hated Ashley, and I fully understand why you hated Ashley, but Ashley would make business decisions for the sake of business, and obviously your new owners as well would do the same as well. They did it with Steve Bruce, for example. I just don't feel like Alan's got that in him, if I'm honest. So I do like him. I feel like he's got good intentions, but feel like at the minute the Premier League and establishing Burnley in the Premier League might be a bit of a step too far for Alan Pearce and ALK. So I do like him, but again, I feel like maybe the step to the Premier League is probably a bit too much.
Interesting.
Joe, I've got 3 more questions for you. Well, one's not a question. One is just I'll get this one out of the way because it's not a question. But we have to bring it up because Foxy, our resident spanner, he knows. Well, Foxy's going into the youth now as well, isn't he? Foxy used to be, on the continent. He knew all the South Americans, and now Foxy also promotes, youth players for the opposition. So you may know these players, Joe, but you may not. But Foxy
probably not. Not paid much sense at you, team. I'm honest.
I mean, that last one's worrying me, and I'll tell you for why. Because yous may struggle to pronounce that. So God knows what you're going to say with the pronunciation of that one. But
it'll be called Brandy P or just Brandon.
Is it Puani?
Knowing Burnley, it'll be something like knowing Burnley fans, it'll be something like Punani or something like
That's
that.
what I was waiting for.
I'm not going to lie. When I first saw the name pop up on the comments, that was my first thought.
That's all it'll be. Burnley fans will just call him Punani. I hope he don't make it. I hope he never plays because that will be embarrassing.
Mate, if you don't sing the Punani song, the Sutton Long, you've got to sing that Punani song if he plays. So Foxy says Burnley have some decent prospects coming through the youth. Cian McMahon Brown and Brandon Puani. I think we'll go with Brandon Puani.
No,
do you know either of those players?
You got to pronounce it properly. You got to pronounce it properly now. Come on.
Brandon Punani.
Yeah. Brandon Punani.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
No, sorry. Genuinely, I don't know too much about the youth side of it. I would like to pay more attention to it. And, if Turfcast ever turned into a full-time job, I would love to, focus more on the women's team, focus more on the youth team, and just do content for all of it, man. But Burnley's just not a big enough club, unfortunately, for me. I'm self-employed. I have 2-3 jobs. I have a son. You know what I mean? Like it's just not enough time. But what I will say is the academy recently lost its Category 1 status. If Fox is still in the chat, he might be able to correct me on this. I'm not sure they've got it back yet. I know there was a big push about getting it back. They may have got it back. But what I will say is, and again, I very rarely compliment Blackburn Rovers, but I think like the best academy recently in East Lancashire is the academy of Blackburn Rovers. They seem to produce players a little bit better than us. There's not many people that have come through the Burnley academy that you can say are like very, very good players. You've got Jay Rodriguez recently, who had an okay career. I mean, a decent career, let's be fair. He played for England. He did well at Southampton. You've got Dwight McNeil, who was obviously at Everton. Never played for England, unfortunately. Never made it that far. Whereas you've got Adam Wharton, who's obviously come from Rovers Academy. Who's, all right, it was rubbish on Wednesday. But, he's in the England setup and he probably will be an England midfielder going forward. So, yeah. Unfortunately, sorry, Fox, I don't know too much about them too, but I'll make a note of that. Genuinely, I've got a pen and paper here. Genuinely, pen and paper. I will be making a note of that. I'll be checking them out.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Now, this next question, which is unusual, it's a really good question, and we haven't been asked it for a long time, but this actually involves the three of us. And this question comes from, where is it? Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder says, who is the best player to play for both Burnley and the Toon? Now, obviously, aside from Martin Dubravka, who we've been speaking about, the one that sprung to mind for me, I had it before. I was thinking
Chris Wood?
No. Oh, I didn't even think of Chris Wood.
He played for them, and he wasn't
Have you thought of Nick Pope?
He
wasn't the best for you, but it was very good for us, Chris Wood. It was just frustrating to lose him the way we did.
To be fair, Nick Pope's got us won us a trophy in 2 Champions League campaigns. So he hasn't been bad on the grand scheme of things. Actually, I think Nick Pope's up there. He's bang up there.
Kieran Trippier.
Kieran Trippier. That's who it was. Kieran Trippier.
There must be some.
Someone said Gaza.
Hold on. Gaza. Jeff Hendrick. Gaz is a shout though. Gaz is a shout. He didn't do that well with us. He was drunk. He was having issues when he was at Burnley. I'm not making light of it, by the way. Like that when he came to Burnley, when he was having a lot of issues. It was towards the end of his career. He was obviously struggling with him going south, if you will. But yeah, Gaza came here. Gaza was very, very good. Just looking at some more now. Stephen Caldwell.
Yeah.
Andy Cole's a shout. Andy, obviously not at Burnley, but he did very well at Newcastle.
But Andy Cole, so he played for Blackburn and Burnley.
There's a couple that have done that. It's not that rare. It's not. He didn't sign from Blackburn to Burnley. Bellamy's a shout, but he never played for us. He never played for us. He was the assistant manager. He was the assistant manager. Under Vincent Company. Yeah. Hold on, I have got a website up here. There's Chris Wood, Kieran Trippier, John Joe Shelby, Paul Robinson, Nick Pope, Jeff Hendrick, Steve Harper, David Edgar, Martin Dubravka, Andy Cole, Stephen Caldwell, and I know we mentioned him already. And I don't think anybody likes him anymore, but Joey Barton as well. Like, he was very good at Burnley, he was very good at Newcastle. It's just a shame he's a bit of a dickhead now. But yeah, I loved Joey when he was at Burnley. Genuinely, I loved him.
Actually, let's be real here.
Chris Waddle's a shout as well.
If we're looking at players that were good for both clubs, like in the modern era, obviously you got Gazza, you got Waddle, you got those like legendary players. But like on the grand scheme, Trump's got to be up there. I know people aren't massive fans of him at the moment. He's got to be up there. He did great for Burnley. You guys loved him. You didn't want him to leave. Obviously, it was through the relegation that he left the club. But like Nick Pope's got his 2 Champions League campaigns. And he's won us a trophy. Kieran Trippier's done the same.
He's very highly thought of at Burnley. He's very, very highly thought of Burnley. We loved him. Like, he got into the Europa League with Burnley. You know what I mean? He played in the Europa League with Burnley. Like, he was fantastic for us. Like I said, he would catch everything. For me, I'd probably edge towards Trippier. Just because I feel like Newcastle fans probably like Trippier more than they like Pope. And we probably like Trippier just as much, if not slightly more than we like Nick Pope. Like, it weren't just about his performances on the pitch with Kieran Trippier. It was just the stuff that he'd do. And you guys will have seen it as well. I remember when we beat Blackburn at Blackburn for the first time in like 35 years. We were 1-0 down. We scored a goal through Jason Shackle, and then we won it late on with Danny Ings. And obviously, it's well documented how atrocious Blackburn's owners have been, and how they own chicken farms over in India, the Venkis. And Kieran Trippier is running around the pitch doing a chicken dance like that, and you just think that's class. Like, you love stuff like that as a fan, don't you? I mean, don't get me wrong, my head would be on Mars if someone were doing it to me. But in a Burnley shirt doing it to Blackburn, it's like, same with Josh Browner when he lifted the inflatable trophy up in front of the Blackburn fans when we won the league at Ewood. Like, stuff like that goes a long way. So for me, I'm probably edging more towards Kieran Trippier in the modern area.
But yeah, I tell you what, boys, we did pretty well there, didn't we, with the list? I know, obviously, Joe, you pulled up the names, but we weren't.
Yeah, I did. I'm not gonna lie, I cheated. I always do that. That's the beauty of being on here and I've been on StreamYard up with loads of tabs. You can just tap away and people think you're brainy, but I'm not. And to be fair, half the time I will be honest. I'm like, yeah, no, I've got a tab up here. I'm not intelligent. Don't think I am in the slightest.
Right, Joe, I've got I think I had one more for you, didn't I? Yeah, I think I did. There was one more. And it's the key one, Joe. Tom Dixon asks you, will Burnley survive relegation this season?
If you'd have asked me 6 weeks ago, I'd have said, I think we'll do it. I think we'll do it. Asked me at the start of the season, I said Burnley, Leeds and Sunderland are all down. Sunderland obviously not now. Leeds are looking like they might get out of it. You know what I like about the relegation shout is people are always like, the bottom 3 now will probably go down. People can't think beyond it for some reason. Having said that, I feel like Wolves are gone. Honestly, like right now, I'm leaning more towards no. We'll go down if I'm honest with you. Last night, obviously, this is. I don't know if this is because that was a podcast or people watch it later or whatever, but we're recording this on Thursday. But last night was the night I walked away from the turf and I'm like, yeah, we're not going to get out of this. We needed something tonight. We needed a little bit of fight, a little bit of oomph. And we just don't seem to have the quality. And I feel like Scott Parker's recent interviews, like I said earlier, have worried me slightly. I feel like he's written off the season already. For me, I said December was massive. I said if we are still in the bottom 3 or pulling away, the other teams are pulling away by the time it's early January when we come to play Man United and Liverpool, then it's that comment from time. The other one where it said it's Jova. It's actually quite funny, but I'm also annoyed at it. It's just, but right now we are down, but we've got to play yourselves twice in the space of 3.5-4 weeks. We've got to go to Fulham, so we'll play Fulham at home. Got to play Bournemouth. We've got Everton as well. So there are winnable games in there. So this is our last chance. If we just pick up a couple of points and lose the rest of them, then we're gone. But right now, yeah, unfortunately, I'm leaning more towards no. However, a win at St James's Park, do I think that'll happen? No. But a win at St James's Park could really turn the season around. It really could. So we're not dead and buried just yet. Look, Leeds have just beaten Chelsea. I don't think Leeds man for man are that much better than us, if at all. So yeah, anything's possible.
Anything is possible. Look, before we let you go, Joe, because I know you've stayed with us longer than anticipated. We absolutely massively appreciate you. You've been a fantastic guest and great to chat to you, by the way. We're just going to pop up the tactics board just to give it a look, and hopefully the squad is correct across the bottom. I need to move my screen because it gets in the way. Yeah, you got your squad available across the bottom. And what do you think your 11 is, including formation, by the way, that's going to start at St James's Park on Saturday, in your opinion?
We'll go with 4-2-3-1 because I feel like that's the formation that we played the most this season. Scott Parker has dabbled with 5 at the back, but he's dropped it recently. He even went 4-4-2 against Palace. It even looked at some points like a 4-2-4. But let's stick with 4-2-3-1, especially at St James's. It'll be Hladky in goal. No, I'm joking because your mouth's over like your mouth's over Dubravka. So it'll be Dubravka in goal.
I was over it ready, so I was like. I had a feeling you were going to throw another goalkeeper out there because I was hovering. So I'm glad you did that.
You even clicked on him. I'm like, I'm not having that. Left back will be Hartman if he's there.
Yeah, he's there. I've got him down somewhere. Where is it? There he is.
Q.
Did you say left back?
Yeah, left back for Hartman. Centre back, I'm hoping it is Steve.
Steve. Is he right or left?
I think he's more left. Yeah, he's left. So next to Hartman, I would imagine he goes with Ekdal because he played against Palace. So I would go with Ekdal, and then right back will be Kyle Walker.
How's it got on for you, Kyle Walker? Interesting.
He started well. But his last few games, don't know what it is. But it was awful. He had one against Palace last night. Although what I will say is he cropped Adam Watson at one point and he squealed like a little girl, and I absolutely loved it. It was beautiful. give me more of that. Midfield, kind of like I said, 4-2-3-1. So a couple of double pivots here, if you will, or in old money, as Uzlak will probably call it, a couple of defensive midfielders. Will be Josh Cullen and Florentino Luis.
Yeah.
Now, for me, spearheading that, what do I think he'll do? I would like to see Hannibal, kind of like, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see it, but you can't. Yeah, kind of like that in the middle. I'd like to see Hannibal. We'll see what he does with Hannibal. On the left, this is now what I'm saying I kind of want now. So on the left, I'm hoping he goes with somebody like, we've been playing Tuna recently, and earlier in the season, JBL started. You're laughing at the name. JBL started the season, and he was poor. But then Tuna started and coming to the team, and he done relatively well. But then he's been poor recently. And then JBL played yesterday and did quite well.
Who's JBL? Is it 34?
Sorry, Jakob Brun Larsen. I should give you. It's not J Bernal. It's Jakob. It might be down as Brun Larsen.
Oh, you know what? I think I've took him out of the screen, out of the team. I've got two in there, and I think one of them should have been.
You've got two Zeki Amdouni. He's actually probably injured. Zeki Amdouni's injured. He ain't playing, unfortunately.
Okay. I think I took him out of the squad by accident.
Just put one of the fake Amdounis there, and we'll pretend it's Jakob Brun Larsen. But don't screenshot
on the left.
Put it out there.
On the left.
Yeah, I think that's where Brun Larsen will play, not Amdouni. Okay. Obviously, just to caveat that again. And then on the right, I want to see Marcus Edwards start, but you're a big side, so it's a tough one for me. This because our fullbacks and typical Scott Parker, he wants them to defend, track back, do well, all that sort of stuff, and Edwards doesn't do that. So he doesn't really play much, but he came on in the second half against Palace and he did very, very well. But in a big side like Newcastle, they've got defenders like Dan Burn and stuff like that who can get on the end of corners. We might struggle with someone like Edwards in there, so I don't think Parker will do this. But I would like to see Edwards on the right hand side, if I'm honest with you. And up front's a tough one. It's probably got to be Zian Fleming because he's the only one scoring any goals.
Where's his rise come from? Because he seems like he's been doing all right for you guys. Every time I see you guys put the ball in there, it seems to be him that's doing it.
He's the only one scoring. Like genuinely, Lau Foster's meant to be our main striker, and he's just not cutting. He's just not cutting the mustard. No matter what league we're in, he does better in the Premier League, weirdly enough, than the Championship because defenders tend to be a little bit higher, and his main asset is pace. He's one of them strikers that will play on the last shoulder of the defender and get in behind. It's a bit of a dying art, really, in the new VAR age. So it's good to see when he does it well. But it's just one of them. He just doesn't really do well. So what it is with Fleming is Fleming plays kind of like it in a similar way to Volta. Like he'll drop deep and want the wide forwards, wingers, if you will, to get in behind, and then he plays them in. But recently we have struggled with that, and that's why I would be playing both of the wide forwards that we ended the game with rather than the ones that we started the game with, because I think Jadon Anthony's been poor recently. Tune has been hit and miss, but he's been more poor recently than he has been good. So yeah, that's what I go for personally. I'd like to see some changes. Hannibal needs to be in there as well. So yeah, I'd have Hannibal to basically cause some issues because he gets in your faces. He winds people up. Like if you're at the game on Saturday, you will probably hate him, and that's good. Like it winds fans and players up, and you know somebody like Dan Burn or Shaw, could bite on something like that and get themselves booked or sent off. So that's something I do. But obviously, just caveating that Zeki Amdouni would obviously be Jakob Brun-Larsen.
Okay.
Joe, what about Anthony? Because Anthony made a really good start, didn't he?
Made a good start, but not sure what it is. He's been poor recently. Poor again last night. Poor against Chelsea. Dropped for the game at Brentford, and then bizarrely brought straight back in for some reason against Palace last night, and just carried on having his normal performances. So he's started the season really, really well, and he's my son's favourite player, or was my son's favourite player. And after the game against Chelsea, when he was poor, there was one moment where he was on the left-hand side, and the chance was to get the ball across to, I think it was Fleming, and he just cut inside, and he just did the wrong thing, and it's just so much stuff like that. And funnily enough, I actually saw him at a petrol station that night on the way home from the turf. And my son, and I said to my son, like, look who's there. And he went, where? And in the left, look in the left, in that big car there, big G-Wagon. You don't know what a G-Wagon is, obviously. With that big car there, and he went, it's Anthony. Is he going to say hello? He's like, no, I'm too shy. But then, as I was in the petrol station, I was looking at my car, and Parker, my son, is there taking his jacket off, and he's looking like that, so Jaden could see his Burnley shirt. So, Burnley fans still like him, but the jury is out for the majority of it, really, because he's been so poor recently.
Wow. So we've got our team there.
I don't know if you saw it, Pete, but Man United have gone 1-0 up against West Ham.
I just see my phone flash up and I looked up at the screen and saw.
That's the beauty of watching on a perfectly legal streaming device like I am, by the way. The comment came in and I could watch the goal go in because it was 30 seconds behind.
Of course. So we've got a team on there. Are you happy to stay around for us to do our team, Joe, or do you need to shoot?
No, yeah, go for it, mate. I might need to shoot at some point in the next 15, but if it's done by then, mate, I'm happy.
We'll be done by the next 15, fella. Don't worry about that. So, Chris, it's on you to set out our team. Again, questions in terms of who's going to start. We'll get an update on the team news, but very, very quickly, we have had some positive news in that there is a high chance that this man will be in the squad on Saturday. We haven't seen him kick a ball for Newcastle United, but there is talk that he will be on the bench for the game on Saturday. So hopefully we get to actually talk about him for a change. So Chris, what's your 11 for Saturday's game, mate?
Yeah, mate. So I'll pick the 11 I think Eddie will pick, and then obviously you feel free to critique me, Pete. But yeah, in goal will be number 32, Adam Ramsdale.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I think Pope's out 3 weeks now, is it? I think that was the announcement, wasn't it? He's going to be out for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
Yeah. Left back will be Lewis Hall.
God, Lewis Hall.
Mm-hmm. Right back, Tino Livramento.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These boys are in good form at the moment, so yeah, they're on it.
Now, me personally, I would like to see Malik Chow and Fabian Schär, but I don't think it will be. I think it will be Malik Chow and Dan Burn.
Yeah.
I think Dan Burn will start left centre back. In the midfield, now Miley's had 2 games on the bounce, hasn't he? And I just wonder. I actually think that Joe Linton may get rested for this game. So I'm going to go with Tonali in the holding position.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, hang on. He's injured, isn't he?
Well, we don't know. This is the thing. We'll find out more. We don't know whether it was an impact injury, whether it was something muscle related. I think we'll find out more from Eddie Howe tomorrow in his presser.
Do you know what? I'm gonna change that, because even if there's even a slight doubt, I don't think he'll risk him. So yeah, I'm gonna put Louis Miley in the holding position.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Bruno Guimaraes in the right centre mid, and I'm gonna say it's either between Willock or Ramsey. I'm gonna say Jacob Ramsey. I don't think Joe Linton will play this game because he's 2 on the bounce, and if we're talking about rotating and protecting players, I think at home, I think he'll rest Joe Linton. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's the midfield. You could argue it's Willock, but obviously you have your say on that one, Pete. Left wing, Harvey Barnes. Right wing. Now, normally at home we would be looking at Murphy, wouldn't we? But I'm going to say Elanga, because I think Murphy had a poor game last game, and I would like to see him get a little run of games, Anthony Elanga. And of course, through the middle, our number 27, Nick Voltemade. That's how I think we'll line up.
Okay, the Newcastle team is in. There's not a lot I think I would probably change with that. Of course, I think if Tonali is fit, he plays and should play. And come back into the team ahead of Miley. So ultimately, I would be putting Tonali in there. But we'll know more tomorrow. I think we'll have an idea of whether he's going to play or not. I would be going with Ramsey. I said it on the reaction. I feel like we've been kind of managing the likes of Willock and Ramsey, and they weren't involved in the game at all. Against Spurs, or I think, Ramsey wasn't involved in it at all, and I'm kind of hoping that because he wasn't involved in the Spurs game, that they're going to prioritise him and give him some minutes on Saturday. So I think we need to see more of him. Whenever he's come off the bench, he's played really well, and I think it's time now that they give him another start, because I think his last start, if I'm right in thinking, was against Benfica in the Champions League, and he was excellent that night. And he hasn't started the game since, so I think he needs more minutes. And I would love him to play in that game.
Just to add in, mate, just before you carry on, a few people in the chat, some really good comments, and I'm conscious you probably won't be able to see these because I know you have the screen on. People are mentioning Leverkusen away, and I think that backs up the Joe Linton resting. And it could also argue the Sandro Tonali one, where they might just want to keep him for Leverkusen, because I think that will be a really, really difficult game. And I just wanted to add that in because I thought there were some good comments there. And also people are talking about maybe Gordon in the Champions League as well against Bayern Leverkusen. Anyway, carry on, Pete. Sorry, mate.
Well, see, for me, I think that might be something that I think might happen on Saturday, if I'm being honest with you. Gordon's had the beating of Kyle Walker pretty much every time he's played up against him.
Yeah, true.
And maybe that raw pace is something that that anyhow maybe consider. So if I was going to change anyone, and it wouldn't be my choice, by the way, I think anyhow might do that and put Gordon there instead of Barnes, and maybe give Barnes a rest. Because let's be honest, how many games in a row has Barnes played recently?
Yeah, true.
He's played quite a lot. He's played against obviously Man City. He's played the midweek games in Marseille, then Everton, then Spurs. He's had a lot of games recently. So is that a case of resting Barnes ahead of the next 2 games to come and give Gordon a run out? That could be the potential there. But I'll leave Barnes on for the moment because I personally would want Barnes to start. I think he's in a good reign of form. He's a goal scorer. He's a goal threat. And we need those in the team. And Nick Voltemada, I think, is absolutely a shoo-in to start this game. He has to. But it'd be great to see this man, Johan Wissa, come off the bench and either replace him or play alongside him, maybe on this side here, on the right, with Big Nick making those runs in and behind potentially. But let's see on that one. But the rest of the team, got no complaints about. But Joe, from your perspective, anything that you're concerned about? Any particular area of the team you're concerned about? Up against yours, like is there a weakness in your team where you think, oh, Newcastle could potentially exploit?
Yeah, I think Voltemada's my main worry. He's come in and done very, very well. I feel like you've, at the minute, in terms of form, you've got the better striker out of the two when it comes to him and Isak. You must have been delighted to we're not delighted to lose so many goals, obviously, but delighted to find someone that's hit the ground running, especially with everything that went on with Isak. I even think that Ekitike is probably the better choice for Liverpool at the minute. But that front 5, if you will, I was anticipating Gordon, so it'll be interesting to see if you do start Barnes or not. But I was anticipating Gordon, and that front 3 of Elanga, Voltemada and Gordon, that does worry me if that is a front 3. Don't get me wrong, Barnes is fantastic, and again, he will probably have some joy against us. But yeah, it's the front 3 for me, especially if you will. I feel like there's a lot of pace in there, there's a lot of power. Voltemada's fantastic, and he wins headers as well and brings the ball down brilliantly. And I just feel like we will struggle against that front line.
Absolutely. Anything from you, Chris, that you kind of potentially worried about from a Burnley perspective? Anything on the counter or anything set plays, individual players? What are you thinking?
Well, obviously, I'm going to be watching Luis after the the glowing endorsement that you and Joe give him. So I'm looking forward to watching Luis. But I think as well, I think it's probably that right hand side, because yes, some people will say that, Kyle Walker's maybe a little bit past it, but particularly if Marcus Edwards starts as well, that's a pretty pacey right hand side. So we might have to keep an eye on that. And Hannibal obviously started his career at Man United, didn't he? And then he's got his move to Burnley. But he's playing more regularly. And in the early days, I really liked Hannibal. I thought he looked like he had something about him, throws himself about a little bit. So if Joe Linton plays, that will be quite an interesting battle between the two of them.
Yeah, the battle of the shithouses.
yeah. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think for me personally, it's just that right-hand side. Yeah, I think that right-hand side's the one I'd be most interested in because, yeah, as I say, Marcus Edwards. You got him from Sporting Lisbon, didn't you, Joe?
That's right. Yeah, he came in January last season and really propelled us into the top 2. I feel like without that signing, we probably don't finish on. We might get over the line, but I don't think we're finishing the top 2 on 100 points. Put it that way.
Yeah. So no, full of pace down that right hand side. So yeah, that's the one for me. So Lewis Hall will have to keep an eye on Edwards, and obviously whether it's Barnes or Gordon, they will have to do the very best to get past Kyle Walker as well, who I think still got a little bit left in the legs.
Yeah, definitely. 2 areas for me for Burnley are opposite ends of the pitch. This man here, Fleming, just because he's been nicking goals recently, and I'm just worried that he might just pop up in an area to nick a goal against us in this game, whether it's against a runner player or not. And the other one is here, and you people of the channel know my feeling on this man. And wouldn't it be typical that he turns up and has a worldie at St. James's Park on his return? So that's what I'm worried about from that perspective. But yeah, opposite ends of the pitch. Obviously, of course, keep an eye on Steve. Watch a keep a close eye on Steve. Fleming as well. Keep a close eye on him because I've watched him in little bits and bobs, like as I'm flicking through. Keep an eye on him because he's been doing well, but I actually spend a game watching him quite closely. So it's going to be an interesting one, very, very interesting. But thank you, boys, for your opinions on the tactics board. We'll definitely come back to that in our match reaction, whether we got that right or wrong. But we get to the final point. What's this? Well, yeah. Probably my feelings for Dubravka are maybe a little bit stronger, but we'll get to the last part, lads, and we'll wrap up the show. And the most important thing is the predictions. So, I'm gonna go for a Newcastle win, and I'm gonna say Newcastle are gonna win 2-0. More so, we just have to win at St James's Park, and I'm just hoping and praying that we don't sit back in, that we go on the attack and we go looking for that win early on. And as I think Tony Bridge mentioned, an early goal would be delightful. Joe, we'll come to you as the opposition fan. What do you think, in your honest opinion, will be the score at 5 o'clock on Saturday?
4-0 to Burnley. No, I'm joking. I agree with you. I've actually already gone and with 2-0 Burnley. We score goals, especially away from home. We're better at scoring goals away from home, weirdly enough. We haven't scored at home since mid-October, I think it was, or late October. But we do score goals away from home. But, whether we do that up at St James's Park, I'm not sure. So 2-0 is what I've gone for, but wouldn't be surprised if it was 2-1 and we nicked a goal. What tends to happen with Burnley is we go 1-0 down, we start playing some football, we look good, we get on the front foot, we equalise, then we sit back again. And it's just like, why have you done that? Just carry on doing what you're doing. And then the team gets back on top. It winds me up no end. That's exactly what we did at Brentford. But I've gone for 2-0. Maybe a 2-1 for Burnley because we do score goals.
It's like looking in a mirror when you're explaining that, because that's exactly what we do. We do all the right things to get a goal and get the lead. As soon as we get a 1-0 lead, we just sit back on the 18-yard box and just defend, and it winds us all up. But Chris, we'll finish it on you. We'll finalise our predictions. What do you think the score's going to be on Saturday, mate?
I was smirking to myself because I think, well, I don't know if it's the first time ever, but it's the first time it's happened in a while. I think it's a full house. I was thinking 2-0 Newcastle. Yeah.
Interesting. So 2-0's up for everybody. Let's see what the scores are going to be. People, you put your predictions up in the comments, and we'll put them up on the screen on the way out. But massive thanks to Joe. Turfcast, just give everyone a plug. Tell them where you can find you, mate.
Yeah, so just search Turfcast. We're on all the main social media channels. The main stuff we do is YouTube-based, but we also have a podcast as well. And obviously, we're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of them. But if you do want to check us out, head over to YouTube. Everything we do goes on YouTube. So just search for Turfcast on YouTube, and you'll find us there.
Excellent stuff. Make sure you go and subscribe. Obviously, we always encourage to watch opposition views and their reactions after the game, etc., etc. Get your score lines in. Make sure you're hitting that like on the way out, and make sure if you're new to the channel, you're subscribing as well, as along with Turfcast. And thank you for watching this evening, people. It's been a great chat, and the preview is in. We're going to leave it there. Have a great evening on this Thursday. We'll listen to Eddie Howe's press conference very, very closely on Friday, and we'll see you for the match reaction on Saturday. You guys take care, and we'll speak to you soon. We'll see you out with our captain. Take care.
Cause sooner or later in life, the things you love, you lose. But you've got the love I need to see me through. You got the love, you got the love, you got the love. You got the love, you got the love, you got the love. You got the love, you got the love, you got the love. You got the love, you got the love, you got the love. Sometimes I feel like throw my hands up in the air.